everybody, and welcome back to the Uncultured Cinematic Universe live. Can we say
Live.
live?
Kinda. This is live in a
We
sense.
are in the same space. It doesn't look like it,
Look
but
at my
we're in the
hand.
same room.
We touched
Oh
hands.
my god, we're going to be able to do cheers with our cocktails later.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a little bit about what the cocktail podcast is. Here we discuss your favorite movies of all time, as well as the ones that got away.
Yep.
We look at classic and iconic films from two perspectives: that of the diehard fan, and that of the uncultured who's never seen it before until now.
That's me.
We're your hosts, Joe and Justin, here to act as your guides, playing part as both the fellow enthusiast and the ignorant and uncultured. That always feels so mean when I say
It does. It does.
We need to change the script on this. Today we'll be taking an impromptu road trip into the beating heart of America and learning what it takes to be a true drag queen along the way. It's 1995's To Wong Foo, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar.
95.
95.
Wow. That's so this puts Patrick Swayze, several years after Ghost.
When did Patrick Swayze leave us?
When he left us?
It was like in
No,
the 2000s.
It was
right?
in the aughts. It was in the early aughts, I feel like maybe. I think he made it to like at least 2010, I want to say.
Sad.
Yeah, pancreatic cancer was a bitch, but
What a talent.
no kidding. He definitely stands the fuck out in this film. Definitely took the role super seriously, which I really appreciated. I have some thoughts on that, on who brought what to the table.
Ooh.
It's
really
gonna be
get
good.
into it. Yeah, we can talk about like kind of the rewards, recognition that this film got or didn't get.
I want to know how this
and
movie was received when it first came out.
Patrick Swayze and Leguizamo in particular were kind of central to that.
Good.
People thought that they were the standouts, even though I think Wesley Snipes is fantastic in this.
Wesley Snipes definitely showed up, but we'll get into it a little bit later.
Yeah.
I want to give you all my thoughts on it.
Okay. Before we get into To Wong Foo, just a couple things. Justin, we are in person.
We're in person again.
We are in my living room, surrounded by like a Star Destroyer's worth of cables and machinery. Like you guys can't see it, but like if any audio or visuals mess up, like no, this is all just a test.
I know this is our first time ever trying something like this in person, and it is a fucking nightmare to set this up.
Yeah.
Like stripping away and unplugging from the comforts of our own home office and stuff like that was such a task.
This set is not currently ADA compliant. Like
absolutely not.
Everything here should be taped down, and it's not taped down.
There are electrical, hazards abound.
My cat is wandering around. He may come and attack us at any moment.
Any one of these electronic things could fail because your cat just chews through the cable.
We do have a slightly better audio visual setup. If people are noticing, we're using like the phones are our cameras, and then Justin brought like official audio equipment instead of my shitty laptop speaker. So it's pretty great.
Yeah, we'll see how this does audio wise as well as video. And we're shooting in a different kind of way too. We typically do landscape, and now we're doing portrait just to go all in with just fucking around and trying new things.
We're running like an A, B, C, D test right now, and if any of this messes up, we may have to scrap this whole thing.
The whole episode, yeah.
We'll see. It'll be the long lost forgotten episode.
Joe, let's dive in here. Let's talk about the theme and how we arrived at this movie.
Yeah. So we are rounding off Pride Month. Happy Pride, y'all.
Happy Pride.
We started out Pride Month with Justin's pick, which was Black Swan. That was episode 19.
Mm-hmm.
Had a great time with that one. We actually got to see that one in theaters at our, can we say like UCU's favorite theater, the Plaza?
Yeah, we'll slap the trademark on that, and just say like UCU pick.
Partnership incoming.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
You know what? What's to stop us from just reaching out? If I learned nothing from this movie, it's to just like set your heart and your intentions out into the world and just go get it.
This movie's all about like visualizing.
Visualize.
This movie has very much what's it called when like you put everything on a board and stuff?
Oh, it's a mood board kind of a thing?
This movie has mood board energy.
Yeah. Mood board, vision board, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Anyway, so during the month of June, we are talking about our picks for queer cinema, essentially.
Yeah.
When we talked about Black Swan, it was a lot of repressed sexuality. It was a lot of bisexuality. And then my pick is a movie that I love and I've seen a bunch before. It's To Wong Foo. Thanks
Yeah.
for everything, Julie Newmar.
I'd always heard of this movie. I always knew what it was,
Mhm.
and the uh and I don't mean this in like a bad way, but like the pedestal it sits on in the within the community, you
Mhm.
know? But I never took the time to watch it, and I'm curious to kind of like take the time capsule and go back in time to understand how this was received,
Yeah.
and it was so wild to hear a lot of the same bullshit rhetoric from the conservative right side of things, like, be played for comedy,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
Especially in the last, 10 minutes or whatever with the final standoff.
There's some moments in this film where you're like, oh my,
Oh,
they
yeah.
they said that word. Oh.
They said that. They went there. This is definitely mid-90s for sure in
Oh
some of the
yes.
slang. But, yeah, I
Um,
think it definitely holds relevance and poignancy to today's issues,
yeah,
you know?
there's definitely like there's a time capsule ness to this movie. It's definitely a movie that exists in the 90s, but I think there's a lot of positive directions it's heading in despite feeling dated in certain areas. There's a couple different like axes I want to talk about here, like where this movie sits within kind of like a boom of 90s queer cinema that I was looking and researching on, and then also like this movie being a movie about drag performers, like how that has evolved into the world we're in today.
Yes.
And I told you this before the episode started. Like you're gonna need to like walk me through the RuPaul of it all, because
Mhm.
being the terrible queer that I am, I've never seen an episode of Drag Race. So I need you to, at the very least, walk me through what the formula is there.
Yeah, we'll do 100% that. And I was really really excited to watch this movie. For one, just to round out, my own culture of it and understanding. And then, yeah, like you said, coming from the drag race enthusiast
Mm-hmm.
that I am, that, I rode the coattails of Ryan cuz she jumped on it before I did. But it was fun to kind of see like, oh, I see where like that reference is, or and obviously you get the fantastic cameo from RuPaul
Oh, so
herself.
many great cameos in this.
Amazing. So yeah, I had a great time with this. I texted you halfway through it of just like, this movie is a delight. It is fantastic. It is
Yes.
it I was worried multiple times throughout, I will say, of like, oh, what direction is this gonna go in? Is this
Mm-hmm.
gonna go into like hate crime
Oh,
territory?
there's multiple times when it almost goes there. Yeah.
It almost goes there, but like the music in the background is being played of like a lighter,
Yeah.
jaunty, like, oh, John Leguizamo is not in danger in this
Yeah.
moment. But
Patrick Swayze will like punch someone in the face, and then it'll be like "I Love Lucy" music in the
yeah,
background
and
when he walks
so
away.
like in that regard, I did feel safe that like, okay, don't you dare hurt any of these
Yeah.
people. And like also too, like I don't want to watch that.
Yeah.
That's so like heartbreaking and sad. But like at the very beginning of the movie, first of all, like it said PG-13, and I was like, holy shit, PG-13
Mm-hmm.
for a drag movie? All right, but I guess this is 95. And then, it said, like language and violence, and I was like, oh, I don't want to see that. If
Mm-hmm.
that, and multiple times throughout the movie, you kind of get the hint that maybe this could go that way.
Yeah.
But it turns out it's violence against um
Queer
bigots
oppressors.
bigotry. Yeah. And you love to see it. You love to see Patrick Swayze, dust off the old guns and just beat the shit out of somebody.
Yeah, I want to get into like where you were in '95, like what little Justin was doing at that point. But before then, Justin, this is episode 20.
20.
Technically, congratulations, high five again in person.
We're gonna keep high-fiving. This is gonna be great.
Um, how are you feeling? 20 episodes in.
20 episodes deep, and I think we're finding our definitely our footing with what we like to talk about, what we want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then why not episode 20? Let's just fuck around with the formula and do it in person.
Oh my god,
This could work.
this could be big.
This setup, we could take this on the road, you guys. We talked about that. Like, where could we go where there would be drag queens on a Monday?
Yeah.
And there's
I mean, we should keep it going where like we do something special on every like 20th episode.
Yeah.
One thing is in person. One day we'll have our first guest on episode like 140. I don't know.
Yeah.
We got to figure out like what a three-way microphone situation looks like.
Yeah, we'll bring in a guest, or we can expand the studio and kind of see what it looks like. Maybe next time we'll do it in my studio
Fill the space
at home. We'll try it out.
We'll just be walking around on the streets with like a boom mic.
Yeah, we can do UCU on the streets. That'd be great. But yeah, let's dive into the conversation, the topic at hand.
Yeah. So tell me, what did you know about this movie before going into it? Like, what was your history here?
So 95, I was 8. So I was really into Power Rangers at the time. I was super into Power Rangers. I think I had just moved out to Texas with my family, and I was kind of just clutching on to being an 8-year-old boy, that kind of thing, adventuring, riding your bikes, that kind of stuff. So this movie obviously passed me by. I mean, because it wasn't in my wheelhouse, right? And also PG-13. I'm 8. I'm not going to watch that, but that doesn't stop me 2 years later, as we'll find out. When I start watching, Scream and fucking Can't Hardly Wait as a 10-year-old. But I remember 96 specifically, and that's when Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet came out.
Oh, yes.
And that's when I really became familiar with John Leguizamo and the idea of kind of just like exploring like sexuality or femininity and stuff like that. I know you haven't seen that movie, but there's it's typical Baz Luhrmann fashion of just a lot of over the topness. So that's kind of like the time capsule of where I was at in 1995.
Very nice. Kind of like the first point of seeing gender and sexuality as like a spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my history with this movie, this is actually the first movie I ever saw at our beloved The Plaza.
Really?
Yeah, and I think I don't know if it was a Wussy magazine thing, but like there was obviously like a drag showcase involved, kind of like how
of course.
When we saw Moulin Rouge.
Yeah.
So obviously a great time. Fantastic place to see this movie in particular.
Yeah, crowd participation, I bet, through the roof.
So fantastic. And then I've seen it multiple times since then. And from what I understand, based on my research, like this movie holds a place as being like the first mainstream Hollywood movie centered around drag performers. Like, it kind of has the Hollywood formula in that way. And when I say like drag queens, I want to differentiate that between like cross-dressing for comedy, something like Some Like It Hot or Tootsie or something like that.
Or,
right?
or the thing that kind of comes out as a contemporary, which was I think 92 or 93, was Mrs. Doubtfire, right?
Mrs. Doubtfire,
where it's not, like you said, it's not played for comedy or played for laughs or played for like, just typical heteronormative of just can't believe this person dressing like this.
Mrs. Doubtfire is not a drag queen, although there are obvious elements that are similar there. But yeah, where this kind of stands in the midst of like 90s queer cinema, you have movies like Mrs. Doubtfire that have that kind of camp element. You have movies like The Birdcage. I wrote down a lot here. Like you have In and Out, My Own Private Idaho, But I'm a Cheerleader. Like these different levels of independent versus more mainstream, different levels of like award success, but it really starts to become part of the cultural conversation. It starts to become more normalized.
Yeah.
But the movie that this To Wong Foo is so often compared to is an Australian movie called Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Or The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. So that was a movie that came out a few years previous that has like a very similar theme. It's in Australia, and I think it's Hugo Weaving and a couple other
Elrond himself, yeah,
Australian actors, and it's a very similar vibe of like drag queens on a road trip, kind of encountering people along the way and like changing people's lives and perceptions,
which I really appreciated. Like they played them, obviously the actors played them, but the movie wrote them out to be just people, right? As opposed to like obviously there is the crux of the B plot of Sheriff Dullard coming after them. And there's that because he's so offended in a way by their mere existence. But throughout the town, when they eventually showed up to Snydersville,
they're
just people. right? And yeah, I can kind of get like how that is. That is really groundbreaking, right?
Yeah.
They're just individuals. They're not playing caricatures.
It's really centering on them as the main characters. You never really kind of doubt that they're the focus of the film. I think critics of this movie originally commented on how it kind of follows a safer Hollywood formula in terms of like, again, like we were commenting, like the drag queens are never really
In
in
danger.
danger in
Yeah.
middle conservative America, which may not have been the case in real life. But maybe it's, maybe it's like more of a Schitt's Creek situation where it's like it's visualizing a world where um, uh, bigotry in that way doesn't really exist as hard as it would in real life.
I'm so glad you brought up that reference because Ryan and I, we watched this the past 2 nights, and that's one of the main takeaways from it is that whole sequence when they're in Snydersville just feels very much like Schitt's Creek,
Mhm.
down to like multiple shots of like the street view and some of the buildings. I was like, this feels like they're on the street down in Schitt's Creek, you know?
It's these characters from the big city who come into this town and kind of like break up the humdrum day to day of it all and kind of add some color, but also receive something in return. They learn things about themselves in return. They learn that these hick characters maybe aren't as simple as they thought
Yeah.
all along.
Yeah. Where exactly is Snydersville?
I don't know. They never. I mean, like they
It's not
joke that it's like not West
West Virginia.
Virginia.
Yeah.
I picture it like Kansas
Yeah,
area. It's very
maybe.
flat.
See how far they got.
I
Yeah.
mean, it depends on like what road trip they're taking from New York to LA. I wonder if there's like a single highway that goes all the way east to west there.
I think there are several.
Yeah.
I think Highway 10 is one of them. That's really far south, though.
I mean, it goes like 10, 20, 30,
Does it?
40. Like I think that's how it works. Like that's why we have 20 going east to west in Atlanta.
I know that it's even numbers go east to west and odd numbers go north and south.
Yeah, like 85,
Goes up
75.
and down, 95, yeah, and
285
20.
is a circle. I don't know.
If there's three, oh, wait, that is the thing. If it's three numbers
If it's
versus
three
two,
numbers, it's
it's a
a
circle.
circle.
It's a never ending hell. Yeah,
This
that's
podcast is
100% it.
now about traffic laws and city planning.
TCU, Traffic Cinematic Universe. I
It's all
was,
about the movie Traffic.
oh my God, remember that movie? Um, I was, again, to harken back, like I was delighted by this movie because it is such a feel good movie, right?
Mhm.
And I wasn't expecting that. I didn't know what to expect. Obviously, I had no idea what this movie was about, but I thought it was going to be more of like a competition between the queens or like rise to fame, fall from grace, that kind of thing. I didn't know how that was going to be, but then it takes this turn 10 minutes in. Not even that. Maybe like 5 minutes in, it's like, all right, we're going to LA and it's gonna be a road trip. It's a road trip movie.
Yeah.
And in that
This
way,
this
it
movie is specifically defined as a road trip comedy.
yeah. I totally get it. So like in that ways I can connect it to a movie that I watched a bunch growing up. And they're both kind of road trip movies, I think, in a sense. Black Sheep and Tommy Boy.
I know a little bit about Tommy Boy. I don't know anything about Black Sheep. Tell me
It's
more.
it's also Chris Farley and David Spade.
They're both Chris Farley and David Spade.
Yeah, joints. And they came out like within a year of
They
each
just do a
other.
lot of road trip comedies.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a road trip kind of thing. One's more political, and the other one is more like selling auto parts. But they
Is Tommy
feel
Boy the
kind
more
of
political one?
yeah. His dad ran for office and then died, and now he's heir to the throne, kind of a thing. It's crazy. But yeah, that feels a very mid '90s kind of thing. It's just like it's a
Yeah.
road trip movie.
It's I think the concept of like fish out of water, which is such a popular trope in any given movie, was very much the the popular one in the 90s. Like it's
Alive
very
and
much
well,
like
yeah.
let's put these different characters who are used to one city, one location in the middle of another city or location and watch cultures clash.
Yeah, for numerous amounts of reasons that we won't get into, but like you couldn't make this movie today
Probably not.
because it's a road trip movie, and that would cost an arm and a leg to drive
Oh,
with $4.27 a gallon.
so many wonderful like specific like 90s things around like technology and cost, like how they get the car for like what, $50 or
$50.
something, and then they basically throw the map out of the car and they're like fucked completely. There's no way. They're just going off of instinct at that point. In a very like flamboyant way, like maps are cheating.
Yeah,
Patrick Swayze.
I love that. I love that scene so much. But yeah, that's so silly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't do that today. Like the movie would be boring because
Yeah.
they would run out of money immediately trying to fill up the tank
Mm-hmm.
in that gas guzzling Cadillac, and yeah, just traffic would be a nightmare.
And all the people in
The
the Midwest would know that they were coming because they'd be live streaming it. Yeah.
yeah, you're right. Oh my god. So yeah, this is a really cool time capsule, but it kind of feels, and I talked about this earlier, like it feels obviously very relevant to today. Like the message and stuff of all that is very poignant and rings clear to a ton of the arguments and stuff that you see on both sides, and it's so hilarious
Mm-hmm.
to see that like the conservative side of things are just so threatened by change.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one of the very last lines, Rizzo, I don't know her name,
Oh,
the
Stockard Channing.
yeah, it's
You're
like I
gonna learn that name.
don't she says to Vita, like, I don't think of you as a man, I don't think of you as a woman, I think of you as an angel. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh, that's so wonderful.
Yeah, I want to talk about kind of like the pros and cons of like the Hollywoodification of this movie and how kind of like having this be a mainstream movie obviously like gets drag queens out into the main culture a little bit more. But also like do they kind of sand off some of the edges of this? But
Yeah.
first let me give you some film stats here.
Hit me.
And then we can dive into like the trailer and stuff.
Oh yeah.
This movie's directed by Beeben Kidron.
I wanted to know more about them. Tell me more about them.
Yes. She directed Bridget Jones' Edge of Reason, which is the second one. And I looked
Edge
at
of Reason is what it's
Yeah.
called?
Yeah.
That
Did you not
sounds like
know
an
that?
action adventure flick.
It's Bridget Jones' Diary, Bridget Jones' Edge of Reason, and then
Bridget
Jones'
Jones'
Baby.
Rise of the
Bridget
Machines.
Jones, Revenge of the Fallen, and then Bridget Jones' Baby. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Too Fast, Too Bridget Jones. Anyway, yeah, she's known for directing that and a few other things. But she's also known for like really advocating for data privacy rights for children. I found, which is cool.
Really specific.
Like children like playing video games and being online and stuff, protect their data. Sure.
Yeah, I'm with it.
This movie stars Wesley Snipes, Patrick Swayze, John Leguizamo, Stockard Channing, a rowdy cast of character actors in middle of nowhere America, and a host of cameos, including RuPaul, Naomi Campbell for half a second, Robin Williams, and of course Julie Newmar. It was released in September of 1995. It made $47 million against a budget of $30 million. Not bad.
Wow, that's expensive.
Yeah. It was definitely, again, like it had that Hollywood budget behind it, and it was seen as a bit of a disappointment, at least compared to like the multiplier of a movie like Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, where that was like made for $1 million and made like 30 million or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's so much of this movie is like in the shadows of that other movie.
Yeah.
In terms of like drag queen cinema.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the cameos in this movie, at least in like the first 10 minutes, are so great.
They're
dynamite. Birdcage, Mrs. Doubtfire era Robin Williams, like just firing on all cylinders. He's like a genie in Aladdin.
I had no idea.
Yeah, he's not
that credited. He was in it.
Yeah,
he's not credited.
Well, at least I don't think he's in like the opening credits. I'm sure he's like in the
Yeah. I'm glad they didn't spoil that. But yeah, as soon as they get to that restaurant and he starts just strolling over, I was just delighted.
Yeah, I think he had the biggest laugh of the night for us, where he says his name is like John Jacob
Jingleheimer-Smith.
Yeah. It's like, do people always shout, "I hate that"?
Just classic Robin Williams, and it's such a like a breath of just comfortability and that kind of stuff, because you
sink right into it.
Yeah, and it's just this is going to be a feel good movie.
Him like immediately launching into Spanish with Chi-Chi is so great.
It's so dynamite.
It's so great that this is like a piece of Robin Williams that is still there to discover. Like you think you have all of the Robin Williams that we're gonna get, but he still has like pockets of himself.
I know, it's great. Yeah, it was dynamite. Obviously, the RuPaul reveal
RuPaul's so great in this too.
And you you texted it to me. RuPaul's drag name is so fucking dynamite. Rachel
Rachel Tension.
Tensions. Like, it's
Comes out
amazing.
wearing a Confederate flag dress.
Like oh my God. Could you imagine trying to do this movie today? Do that exact thing? Like, hilarious.
So good. Yeah, we're gonna have to have like a RuPaul's Drag Race segment because I want to see like how that's evolved since then.
Absolutely.
You do get Naomi Campbell for a second.
Where?
Talking to she's the girl in the restaurant where she goes up to Wesley Snipes' character and is like, "I wish I was as pretty as you," and Noxema's like, "Good luck."
Good luck. Okay. I missed that. Oh my God. That's hilarious.
And then, yeah. So a bunch of cameos in the beginning, and then they hit the road, and then it kind of becomes like a road trip, Midwest, heartwarming comedy with some romance and some drama elements.
So much drama and love and tension and stuff. I didn't expect that at all. I didn't expect the layover.
Yeah.
In Snydersville,
You
and I was
think it's
like, "Oh
gonna be
man!"
just like little pockets of stuff across.
That's what I thought.
America,
And then I was like, "Oh man, they're still here."
most of the movie's Snydersville. Yeah.
I was like, "Oh," and then we're halfway through. Okay, and they're gonna finish out here. Interesting.
And then
So-
like 30 seconds at the end in California, which is so great.
Right.
How do we do the trailer here? Let's
yeah,
figure this out.
yeah. Let's figure out how to do the trailer. Here we go. Let's watch this trailer, Joe. It's a good one.
Wesley Snipes, he's been a killer and a commando. Patrick Swayze, he's been a heartthrob and a hero. But these tough guys are about to face the most physically challenging roles of their careers.
Let's give it to him, girls.
Meet Vita Boheme.
Enchanté. Why are you crying? Maybe she just found out Menudo broke up.
Miss Noxema Jackson.
Jesse's daughter.
And their protege, Chichi Rodriguez.
I'm the Latino Marilyn Monroe. I got more legs than a bucket of chicken.
They were headed for Hollywood.
Think of it as Easy Rider in dresses.
On a sacred mission.
Must take this message from Miss Newmar with us across the land.
Going on right here, a celebration to last throughout the years. So bring your
But along the way, they had an unexpected stop.
You know what you career girls want? Careers? Your daddy some sugar.
Please, no.
No. No, I can't believe this.
Please don't quote me, but I think this one is deceased.
A dead white policeman?
Now, they're stranded in a strange land.
Well, ladies, welcome to Snydersville.
And you thought the Dust Bowl was over?
This is the presidential suite.
Must have been one of those bad presidents.
You got beat up by a girl?
And before they leave,
Do you like my nails?
they may turn this town from drab to utterly fabulous. Universal Pictures and Amblin Entertainment present
How do I look?
Like the Miami sound machine just exploded all over you.
Wesley Snipes,
Look, I'm sorry about the way the Civil War turned out.
Patrick Swayze,
I gather you like hitting ladies.
Some ladies need to get hit.
and John Leguizamo.
I gotta go. I got cramps.
To Wong Foo, thanks for everything, Julie Newmar.
Turn it out!
God, that movie, that trailer rips, dude.
Yeah. So I don't envy the job of the person who had to make the trailer and make sense of the title of this movie. So I want to specifically talk about the title here.
Right.
Like if you see that on a poster and you have no idea what this movie is about, what does that say to you?
Who the fuck is Wong Foo?
That's like a question raised in the movie.
Yeah. To Wong Foo. Thank you for everything. Thank you for what?
I mean,
And why is Julie Newmar involved?
it makes it memorable at the very
Absolutely,
least.
because it's so ridiculously long.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Such a long title. There's random exclamation points in places where you don't think that there are.
Really? Where?
Yeah. It's after thanks for everything.
Oh, thanks for everything. Okay, it's a sentence. Yeah, it's a proper sentence.
Anyway, yeah, I think the trailer itself even doesn't fully emphasize like how committed the actors are in this role. Like it's not even like a joke in that way. Like I I think Swayze and Leguizamo and Snipes are like really doing this, and it's not necessarily like they're not kind of winking at the camera in any way. They're
No.
fully into the roles of being these drag queens.
Yeah.
And
Okay. So
giving
here's
them fully realized characters.
right. And here's what. Okay. So I hinted at this earlier. So obviously, all three of them bring something unique to the picture,
Mhm.
and I think top tier obviously is Patrick Swayze, just putting his all into this role.
Mhm.
Takes it very seriously, sinks into it. I think, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes in, disappeared of like, oh, that's Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, oh, that's just Vita.
They just
you
start
know?
to look like completely different characters. Yeah.
Same with John Leguizamo as Chi Rodriguez. Again, just sinks into the character, makes me really believe it. Now, controversial. I think Wesley Snipes maybe dialed it in a little bit.
Oh, you don't like Snipes in this?
Okay, now I'm not saying that.
Justin doesn't like Snipes in this movie.
Justin hates Snipes in this movie. No, I thought Wesley Snipes did a great job in the role, but I didn't feel the same amount of commitment and heart as the other two.
Mhm.
Not to disparage the role or what he brought to the table, but I could just believe it a little bit more that Patrick Swayze was just embodying Vita Boheme. John Leguizamo was embodying Chi. I felt like maybe, and this is just splitting hairs, Wesley Snipes is just playing the role as Wesley Snipes.
So Wesley Snipes definitely doesn't get as many emotional moments in this movie the same way like Leguizamo and Swayze do. And I think Golden Globes kind of picked up what you're picking up on because they nominated Swayze and Leguizamo, and then Wesley Snipes kind of got left out of that.
That's just the way the cookie crumbles, Like I still loved the interaction between Noxzema and who's the old lady?
Who's the old lady? Oh, I can't remember her name, but I know who you're talking about.
But-
The old lady who really likes old films and stuff.
Yeah. Like those were great scenes, and that
Mhm.
was really touching in some ways. That she would open up and start talking to only Noxzema because they made a
Mhm.
connection and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
But
Wesley Snipes is definitely playing it a little bit more heightened, whereas Patrick Swayze's character is a lot more earnest,
grounded,
and like
yeah.
really like holds the emotions on the shoulder, right? And then John Leguizamo is obviously just like a completely fireball, not afraid to confront anyone, not afraid to just put herself out there as this fully herself. And not afraid to like form these relationships with people.
Yeah, and in
where
that
she may get
regard,
hurt.
you mentioned heightened. Chi Rodriguez is a heightened character, over the top, saying these insane things a lot of the time. But they felt more honest, earnest coming from that performance, from that performer, versus, I don't know, in a sense, Wesley Snipes feeling like he's just reading lines.
Yeah.
And maybe that's attributed to writing or whatever he decided to bring to the role, that kind of thing. But I mean, it's not a bad role in any regard.
Well, yeah, and I think Patrick Swayze gets the most one-on-one time with Stockard Channing's character, who's kind of the abused housewife that they come across in this town, and they make friends with her. They're staying at her bed and breakfast type situation.
Yeah.
Her husband's the mechanic that's working on their car. He sucks.
He sucks.
And they kind of show her that there's more to life, and there's life worth sticking up for in this way.
Yep. It was great. That was definitely the heart of the movie, right?
Mhm.
And that was the message, like I already said, fully encapsulated by the ending line of, I think of you as an angel, which,
Mhm.
Obviously by the end of that movie, you're misty-eyed and that kind of stuff, and it feels really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the central part.
You mentioned going into this movie that you thought it might be more about like the competition of it all, and you can really easily see a different movie where Vita Boheme and Noxzema Jackson are like competing
Rivals,
drag queens,
yeah.
like wanting to go for the crown, but they are so like best friends, supportive of each other the entire way. It never even like the idea of like being the best drag queen in America never even comes up. They're both equally kind of shitting on Leguizamo a little bit and kind of teaching her how to be the proper drag queen, teaching her about what it means to be a drag queen as opposed to a
boy in a dress,
up in a dress, right? And so like they have this energy, they have this kind of like rapport between them where you can tell there's such a history there.
Yeah.
Even though again, like you get into kind of like the Hollywood of it all, the story has to focus a little bit more on Swayze as, you know, the white male star a little bit, and it's maybe I don't know how unrealistic it is that like he's the one who taught Noxzema how to be a drag queen. I don't know if that would be the case in real life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I that was one of the things that stuck with me watching this movie is like the relationships between them, between all three of them, are kind of the core of the movie.
It's very
And
familial in a
yeah,
way. That in certain instances, Vita and Noxzema feel like, your two moms kind of thing, kind of
mhm,
fighting and bickering. They've been through it, but then some of the times they feel like siblings, right?
yeah,
Your older aunts kind of thing, helping you out through things, and then definitely you see a really good trajectory of Chi Chi kind of growing up and uh, earning her stripes, in
mhm.
a sense, the lessons and that kind of stuff.
And I think like you kind of like read the critiques of this movie, and it often touches on the fact that like Patrick Swayze and Wesley Snipes don't necessarily have like romantic subplots, not with each other, but just like as the gay men that they're playing in this movie who are drag queens, they're kind of forces of nature. There's like that fairy godmother gay character trope
Yeah,
where it's just like
I'm
they're
here
a
to
little
fix everything.
asexual
Yeah,
in this movie,
yeah.
even though John Leguizamo's character does get to play around with more of a relationship with one of the Snydersville folks in this.
Bobby Ray.
Yeah, but that eventually like also dies down, and it's much more about their relationships as friends.
Mm-hmm.
Even if that maybe sacrifices a more realistic storyline where like they have their own romantic connections with other people.
Yeah, which could have added an interesting tertiary plot
Yeah,
to it, or maybe just some background.
but I think it succeeds still in a way. And I was talking earlier about like, you know, the positive directions that this movie points towards is like, sure, like they aren't like fully realized like romantic characters in the way that like a straight couple would be in a classic rom-com or something like that, but they still have arcs, they still have like flaws that they address in each other, you know, like they talk about how Vita is way too in everyone's business and
Yeah.
kind of like is dealing with her own emotional conflict by fixing everyone else's.
Mm-hmm.
And even Noxzema like has reservations about interacting with people because you can tell that she's kind of been hurt in the past. And
Mm-hmm.
like Chi-Chi's a little bit too out there and she doesn't really understand like the roles and responsibilities of
It's
being a drag
great.
queen.
Yeah, it's a really well-rounded
Mhm.
pie that you get at the end between the three of them.
And it all kind of comes together when they resolve their conflicts towards the end with each other.
Yeah, the scene when they're at the dinner table, and Vita and Chi Chi are like apologizing to each other.
Mhm.
It's really sweet.
It's really sweet. And I did have a note here. It's almost like it's a level of relationship and like relating to each other that these townspeople almost can't recognize. Because
Yeah.
these townspeople are more conservative and reserved, even though they're not like, you know, they're not like outwardly aggressive or anything to these people. They're very accepting
Mhm.
of these new characters, most of them. But like the way that these drag queens kind of relate to each other is just on a different level, on a different spectrum.
Yeah.
Almost like they can easily forgive, they can easily have these very high emotions and then go into like loving each other,
Mhm.
just because like they're more used to that like fluid way of interacting.
Yeah, it is really refreshing and really eye-opening, for 1995 for this story to be told. And yeah, I wish I could take a trip back to kind of understand,
Mhm.
how this landed.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay. Before we get into additional thoughts here, let me try and time you for a
Oh,
1
shit.
minute plot description without my phone. Hang on.
Okay. I'm eagerly awaiting.
You can do it. Do it on my iPad.
Joe's got an iPad, folks,
I have an iPad.
and it is impressive.
It's huge.
It's so
Okay.
ridiculous.
Okay. Are you ready to give a 1 minute plot description of To Wong Foo? Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar.
Yes.
Okay, your time starts now.
The film centers around 3 enigmatic drag queens: Vita Bohem, Noxzema Jackson, Chi-Chi Rodriguez. Chi-Chi is an up-and-coming star. Vita and Noxzema are more mature, been around the block, professional career ladies. They are competing for like Miss New York, I think, and they tie. But their prize is you get to go out to LA, I think, for Miss
30
America
seconds.
drag queen. So they do, and they're like, Chi-Chi, you're coming with us. And then they end up stranded in middle America, Snydersville, and they turn it around. You think people aren't going to accept them, but they do. And they throw a strawberry social, whatever that means. I wish we could have seen more what that was instead of just a party in the middle of the street.
10
They
seconds.
almost kill Chris Penn, but he comes back to life and he hates it, but he loves it at the same time. And they change the minds of everyone, and they're all the better for it, and everyone loves them.
Oh, and that's time. Yeah, you kind of covered it. I think
I spent 30 minutes at the top of the movie.
yeah, you spent 30 seconds.
I
on
did
the
a
New
Joe.
York portion.
I pulled a Joe.
Yeah, I've had really bad plot descriptions on this podcast. But no, I think it covers it. It's basically it's road trip comedy where they get stranded for most of the movie. And it's about them kind of transforming this town, but also just like bringing out the emotions and the color that were already there. to
Yeah.
begin with.
How? Okay, so help me understand. Like, what is the main point of going out to LA? They
Okay.
won. They tied.
There's like a drag queen. They
won
So,
regionals. They're going to
Patrick,
nationals.
Patrick Swayze and Wesley Snipes tie for like best drag queen in New York City, and
Yeah.
then they go to like best drag queen in America competition,
Right.
and then they decide to take Chi-Chi on as like their protege and kind of show her the ropes of drag queening.
Right. Okay. So that's the whole point of it, of going out there. All right.
Mhm.
So then when they eventually at the very end, when they make it, and like your Miss American drag queen is Chi-Chi Rodriguez,
Yeah.
she wasn't even in the running. Right.
Right. That doesn't make sense. You're right.
And then Julie Newmar is there to hand over the crown. And so like it's a delusion of somebody's.
We're gonna call Universal up and demand our money back because you're doing plot hole after plot hole.
Yeah.
No, I think it's there's certain like almost magical realism elements to this movie
Sure.
where again like that fairy godmother-ness of the drag queens kind of comes out. But I think the idea is that they help Chi-Chi become such a fully realized drag queen in her own right that through that power she won.
She can do whatever
Or
she
maybe,
wants to.
Maybe
now.
it's the following year. We don't know.
Maybe it is.
Yeah.
I wish there was a little more clarity, but I think that was a fun way to end it. Of just like, oh, Chi-Chi made it.
Yeah.
Right. She is now a fully fledged drag queen, and now she won nationals or whatever it is. And Julie Newmar was there. So that's where I was like, hey, wait a minute, hold on here.
I guess you've got to have Julie Newmar in a movie that
With
has
her
Julie
title?
Newmar in the title.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick, Justin. Cheers.
Oh, yeah.
Which we can do in person now.
Yeah. Look at that.
Tell me a little bit about what you're drinking here.
Okay. It burns so good.
Mm.
That is a. I'm calling it a little Latin boy margarita. So it's essentially just a spicy margarita. Made some. Ryan helped me make some jalapeno simple syrup, and then I just used your tequila
Yeah.
and triple sec from
That
your
sounds
kitchen.
painful.
It was great.
Little
But yeah,
Latin boy and drag. Why are you crying?
yeah, I was trying to think of like how else can you dress up a margarita, and I couldn't land on anything. But I made it spicy because it's Latin, and I myself am a little Latin boy at heart.
Aw.
So
See, that kind of works.
yeah,
Um,
what do you got? What is that? That little
I'm
pink
working
thing?
with what I'm calling the drag princess,
Ooh.
based off of Chi-Chi's self-given title when she's not fully a drag queen yet.
Yeah.
It's essentially an Aperol spritz without the orange peel garnish because it's not complete yet. It's on its way
Ooh.
to it, and also I didn't have any oranges.
I like that we both gravitated towards John Leguizamo's character.
I think he's kind of the standout in this movie. He's giving the most energy in a way.
The most energy, and it is a complete plot,
Mhm.
a complete arc of, hurrying, rushing to get to the competition,
Mhm.
um, you know, to the very end of being a winner, right?
Yeah.
Learning love along the way, learning the rules of becoming a drag queen proper. that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think what I love about this movie, if like we're getting down to just like big thoughts here, like this movie could have so easily been, and maybe would have been if it was released 10 years later, like a comedy about how making fun of drag queens almost in a way, like
Yeah.
like these men are dressing up as women, but there's like an earnestness to it where like everyone's just like really feeling these real emotions. They're feeling joy, they're feeling love for each other, and like there's never really a point where, again, like either of the three leads are kind of winking at the camera like, oh, how silly all this is.
No, and that's what I really loved and appreciated about it because, I'm still not really certain of the era of 1995 of like how just gay culture period was accepted or viewed upon the world,
Mm.
you know? I didn't really get a taste for it until like much later in life and then understanding, but I can imagine, this movie probably hit theaters and, TV screens and stuff like that, showing trailers and stuff like that, and just middle America being just clutching their pearls.
Yeah, I mean, it
They
wasn't
don't
like
understand.
a massive blockbuster hit or anything, but I like to think like it introduced people to the concept of drag queens as kind of these characters living their best life.
Yeah, and they're
regardless of
not.
gender.
Yeah, and they are just, and again, like I said, they are just people.
This is how they can be their most authentic selves via the clothes and the wigs that they wear.
Yeah, like, and that would be that message right there is kind of beneath the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what we're close reading with it. Although like that is the narrative these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Be your most authentic self. Be happy with who you are, that kind of thing. Explore who you are, that kind of thing. That would be more explicitly stated, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So when we talk about drag queens these days, obviously the biggest thing on the mind is like the empire that RuPaul has created, right? So there's RuPaul's Drag Race, there's RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars, from what I understand.
Yeah,
which
there's
is
like
the
UK, there's
Hunger
Latin
Games winners
America,
all
there's
coming together.
Canada. Yeah.
Tell me about like what goes into a typical like drag race episode, and like what's the reason to be watching these days?
So we're entering drag corner?
Drag corner?
Is this
Yeah.
drag corner?
Do you
Just
wanna
drag
get-
corner? We're gonna
Okay.
do it? Okay. Yeah.
We're taking advantage of the visual medium.
Here we are. Oh my god. This isn't mine. This is Ryan's. That one is mine. Joe's putting on my wig and I'm wearing my wife's wig. One of them. This is from our costume closet. But yeah, I'm donning a blonde mid-shoulder length down my shoulder blades, and Joe's
I kind of have like a Winona season 1 Stranger Things.
Oh
look
yeah,
going
got some
on right
bangs.
now,
Yeah.
some Silkwood. Yes.
Yeah.
I look like a struggling mom in the 80s with a 6th kid. Okay.
It's the Reba McEntire song playing in the background.
Yes.
Loving mom who's got 2 jobs.
A single mom who works 2 jobs.
Yeah, that's it. 100%. Drag corner. Here we are. Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, Ryan started watching Drag Race, and we talked about the dates last night. She started probably like 2018. She would watch them on her lunch break.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just, that's how she passed the time. And by that point, I think they were on like season, I don't know, 8, season 7 or 8 of Drag Race.
Okay.
So she had a lot to kind of go through. She started season 1, did the All-Star seasons in between as well. So around 2020 is when I got into it during the height of the pandemic. Probably late 2020, early 2021, when season 11 came out, I think. That was the first season that I watched from beginning to end.
Okay. So it was a pandemic watch for you.
It was a pandemic watch for me, and then now, like, there's still ample stuff that I need to go back. I haven't watched all of season 10 or the preceding seasons before that, but I've seen most of the All-Star seasons, I think 4, 5, 6, and 7 I've seen. But, okay, so a typical season of Drag Race, RuPaul's Drag Race, trademark, registered trademark, centers around anywhere between like 12 to 14 drag queens from across America.
Okay.
A lot of them are typically from like New York or LA or things like that, but there you get a good mix of people from around the country. Some people from Atlanta, some locals, and things like that show up. So there's a group of girls there that show up, and it's kind of like Top Model in a sense. Have you watched Top Model?
I mean, I understand the concept. Like one person gets voted off every week, and they're kind of like it shows the behind the scenes of like how they do their stuff, and then they do their stuff.
100%. Yeah. So each episode, there's like a different kind of like challenge or something that takes place, right? Some of them are acting challenges, where they'll kind of like group up and do like scenes from like a fake movie or something like that, or a drama TV show or something. And they're always really something about RuPaul. RuPaul really loves a pun. Girl loves a pun. So one of the seasons they did Gay's Anatomy, and they were all doctors, and it was hilarious. And they do like improv challenges where it's like live acting, that kind of stuff, and they're playing off of each other, trying to be funny, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or there's like a girl group challenge that they'll do every so often where they like have to sing a song. They write lyrics and they record a song and they have to dance and do all the thing. Sometimes there's a talent show. It's a mixed bag of things like that. And then Crown Jewel, we've talked about this on a couple episodes ago. There's a big one that's really popular, which is called the Snatch Game,
Right.
which is based off the game show Match Game, where it's like 8 or so panelists of like celebrities, right? And then you have 2 contestants, and they're usually guest stars or whatever who jump on. And RuPaul asks them a question, and they answer it, but also the celebrity guests answer it at the same time. So you're trying to match of the 8. So like I don't know how many I don't know.
I thought RuPaul's Drag Race was truly just every episode like you do a snatch game and then you do a lip sync and like that's it.
No. Okay. So each episode centers around a thing, a competition, that kind of stuff, right? And then there's in between. They're in the workroom, as it's called, the WERK, the workroom, and that's where they're beating up their faces, they're doing things, they're getting ready, or they're
talking
making
heads and all
the
that.
talking heads, or the drama. That's where the drama comes in, and then they go and perform and do the thing, and then they're all judged, right? RuPaul and like her, panel of either guest judges or like Carson Kressley is on there a lot, Michelle Visage, Ross Matthews, and a bunch of other people show up every so often. Every episode, there's like a celebrity guest or something like that who's a judge. So they judge all of them, and there's usually like a winner, and that person will usually take home like a cash prize or something like that. And then on a typical Drag Race season, there's the 2 bottom queens, and they have to lip sync against each other. They have to lip sync for their life. And it's hilarious. And it's a very Survivor in that kind of way of like, they're not pleading their case, they're like performing to stay on there. And the famous line that Rue says to them every time they go out, it's like, this is your last chance to impress me and keep competing. And 2 queens stand before me. Yeah, it's all this kind of stuff. And don't fuck it up is the thing that she says. And they perform. And sometimes there's missteps, or a lot of times someone just like completely blows the other out of the water and they become a lip sync assassin, that kind of thing. And it's amazing.
That's fantastic.
And then they get to the end, and the grand prize now is, like $20,000 or something like that.
Oh.
It's big.
And then they just get like bragging rights for the rest
for
of
the next year,
years,
kind of a thing. And then they come back, and then All-Star seasons rules are different. But yeah, that's Drag Race. And Joe, I'm going to get real with you. Drag Race, I attribute, we said it's a pandemic watch and that kind of stuff. And that's when people understood a lot about themselves, right? During the pandemic. Drag Race specifically, and TikTok, kind of just like understanding, getting through it. That's what opened my eyes up to be like, maybe I am bisexual.
Justin, Pride Month.
Pride Month.
In-person high five.
Because, you look at some of these people and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
She's stunning. And then they're out of drag and you're like, that's still a stunning person. Yeah. Oh my God.
It's what Wong Foo is all about. It's like helping people find the strength and emotion and the power and the feelings that are already there.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, right. And it goes along with the thing that I've seen on TikTok before. This was years ago, of like, there's the understanding of, autism and that kind of stuff. And, if you think a lot of everybody has like a little bit of autism to them, like that's not true. Like, that's the whole thing. And then it's like, oh, well, everybody's a little gay,
Everyone's a little gay.
but not everyone thinks that way. And it's just like, oh, well, then that's just me. Okay.
I thought everyone was a little gay.
Yeah. So like understanding that, like sexuality, attraction, all that kind of stuff is fluid. And, you know, um, I'd always kind of historically understood bisexuality of just like action
Yeah.
and not attraction.
Yeah.
And then that's what it is. It's just like
You
what,
kiss 50% women and 50% boys.
and it's got to be 50%. Otherwise, you're gay or you're straight
If you don't meet your quota by the end of the year, you get your card revoked.
or punched. But like understanding that truly is just like, oh, okay. And then there's, there's power in that. There's growth in that of just understanding like who you are. It's just like, oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
Like, and it doesn't matter. It's like, yeah, that person's hot.
Fantastic. I mean, it all comes back to the idea of like drag performers really being like culture leaders in that way. Like so much of what we now normalize in the culture originated with these drag queens.
Absolutely. They are tough pioneers. They shattered ceilings. They broke through thick walls and stuff like that to, to do a lot. And, the community at large and humanity, attribulates and should to drag queens and, everyone else. They are true pioneers of moving the world forward.
It's using the tools you have to be your truest self.
Absolutely.
Side note, I love how, maybe this is just because of like RuPaul's Drag Race, but like I love how much lip syncing has become associated with drag these days. Because like you don't necessarily have to be a singer in your own right. I don't even know if a lot of these queens can sing, but like it is so much purely about just the performance of it all, right?
Yeah.
It's so much about like the visual presentation and how much energy and how much emotion you can put into your performance. And that kind of like is shown in a different way in this movie, where it's kind of interesting how they portray these drag queens into Wong Foo, but they're never really out of their drag queen personas in a way.
Right.
It kind of shows flashes of that. Like it shows Patrick Swayze and Wesley Snipes getting ready in the beginning of the movie. It shows like some wigs getting snatched a little bit, but like they sleep in their wigs for all we know. It's kind of it's I don't know if it's like a misunderstanding, or maybe this is kind of like an easier way to again fit into that Hollywood formula where it's like these drag characters are existing in drag the whole time. Maybe like that wouldn't be the case in real life.
Yeah. You get a good feel for that in this movie, and we'll definitely go back and we'll circle around. We'll watch a full season of Drag Race to fully understand that, because some of them that I've seen, they bring up that like, yes, this is my persona. I am, when I put on the makeup and the outfit and the wig and that kind of stuff, I embody this person and I become that person. And outside of it, I'm trying to learn how to bridge that gap, how to bring that energy into my personal life, that kind of thing. And it's the whole thing of living your authentic self, the power in, being free in when you can fully express yourself. RuPaul talks about that all the time. Like you're not afraid anymore. So how do you knock down that wall between like, I'm just this person in this setting versus like, that is just who I live by.
It's an interesting phrase that comes up a few different times in the movies. What do they call them? Like, they don't call them working girls. It's like what
career girls.
Career girls.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they kind of introduce themselves as like 3 career girls in this small town, and then the Bobby Lee character, the younger teenage girl, asks like, "Oh, I want to be a career girl when I grow up. How do you do that?" And it's interesting to think like in that time, like it doesn't matter that they're actual like girls in like a biological sense. It's the energy that they're bringing. It's that level of independence and freedom and like an emotional expression. Like they're career girls. Like this is they proudly wear their femininity, and that's kind of like their whole world here.
Yeah, and the whole thing that like femininity isn't weaker than masculine energy. In fact, it's more powerful in a lot of regards, if not all of them. And yeah, that's where Vita brings the power to Carol Ann's character of just like, you don't have to take this shit anymore, that kind of thing. You're your own person. Like it's great.
It's very Reba in those moments.
It's very Reba. Yeah.
It's very like the chicks. They killed Earl and all that.
Oh, it is.
I love those moments.
Yeah.
Let's get into some final thoughts here, and then I have a game that I want to run by you.
For sure.
What else did I have here?
I don't know.
Yeah. So one of the more positively reviewed elements of the film that we talked about is the relationships between the main characters, how they have each other's backs and have this like level of friendship that often isn't seen in characters like this in these movies, where they're often more like side characters that serve one purpose.
Yes, they're not the gay best friend kind of thing. They are the heroines of their own in their own right.
Yeah, even though like they do have moments where they are literally playing the fairy godmothers and kind of like directing the straight dancers down below. But that's kind of a direction you want to see these films evolve going forward. Is like dive more into the personal lives of these drag queens, right?
Yeah.
Like, give them more dimensions when it comes to like romantic interests and stuff like that. And so that's hopefully what you see more of when it gets into like RuPaul's Drag Race or any movies about drag queens coming out these days, right?
Which I'm not too familiar with. I don't know. I can't name any movies off the top of my head that are
more
like
drag cinema.
We need more drag cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah, easily. Drop us a line. Wait, what's our email? unculturedpodcasters@gmail.com or
UCU pod at Gmail. Fuck. What is our email?
One of those. Just hit us up on Instagram.
Yeah, we don't check the email. I don't even think we have access to the email.
One of those we don't. I think we have the Gmail. I don't know.
Send us an Instagram message.
Yeah, because we'd love to round this out. If we play our cards right, Joe, we could do another episode next week if we wanted, but I don't know. That could be asking too much.
Pride Month, y'all.
Pride Month.
We stay busy. Okay, Justin, any last thoughts on To Wong Foo before I get into this game that I've created for you?
This was so much fun. I will definitely be revisiting this movie a bunch just because it is such a good, like, feeling movie. Like you leave with a good positive outlook. It feels like a good episode of a Drag Race, to me.
It's an energizing movie and it's hilarious.
And it's positive, and there's no like, ill, things that happen to them. Like it very well could have. It could have taken the Dark Knight kind of thing where they grounded it in reality, and there would have been, sexual assault and hate crimes and stuff like that, and it just would have been fucking depressing.
There's certain elements of the film that may be dated, like certain language that they use, but it kind of like parallels how Stalker Channing ends the movie, like you said, where like you don't really consider these drag queens like men or women, you consider them angels, and then Patrick Swayze's character is like, sure, I think that's healthy.
That's such a good ending line.
The direction that this movie is headed, just that it's a healthy direction. Yes.
Like, and that's where I think this movie transcends a lot of, that kind of era, early 90s, mid 90s. And that's why I think it stands out, obviously, for just a lot of the rhetoric that we're hearing today. Like, you could re-release this movie as a brand new one today, like wipe the brains of everyone who've seen this movie, and like it's a new one, and it would still hit. This movie would still slap, because it resonates so well.
Yeah. I mean, that's where you get into the Hollywood formula. Like it's following previously determined structures of how a story should work, but with these new types of characters on different spectrums.
Yeah. Overall, definitely A+ because it was such a delight. It was such an unexpected journey, as it was. And I didn't expect them to stay in Snydersville half the movie, and they do, and it turns out to all be great. And they all grow for it.
So great. Are you ready to play a game?
I am ready to play a game. What was the text you said to me earlier? This is either
I said this is going to be like the greatest or the worst game.
Yeah, or an affront to humanity.
There's not going to be any in between.
Oh man. So Joe, I had so much fun doing the video and the song for this. I told you last time I get to do a RuPaul song. So You get to live it. Here we go.
Come on, Joe, help me play Name That Drag. Here we go, time to get gooped and gagged. Come on, Joe.
The UC Ruse. Name That Drag.
Oh, that's fantastic, and I'm so sorry for what's about to happen. Okay, Justin, we're gonna play a game called Name That Drag.
Great.
Okay.
Is this a game about dragons?
No. No,
Ah.
I didn't go that far. Else I thought about it. So we have covered 20 movies at this point on this podcast.
Yes.
And one of the most notable things that I think of when I think of drag performers is these like incredibly fierce names that they're able to come up with, right?
Okay. Yeah.
You got to have a great drag queen name if you want to make it in this industry.
Yes, you do.
So I have come up with 10 drag queen names.
Okay.
And I want you to think back to the movies that we've covered.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me which movies inspired each name.
Okay. And there is a right and wrong answer.
Oh, I'm not even giving you multiple choice. Like
Okay.
I am. You're going to tell me one name. You're going to tell me a movie.
One movie.
Yeah.
Got it.
You're picking from the movies that we have covered.
Got it.
essentially.
Okay.
So going into this, I realized that this is a lot harder than I initially thought because drag queen names aren't necessarily like puns. They're more just like, how fierce can you make it? And I tended to lean a little bit more onto the pun side of things.
No, like my Ryan and I's most favorite like drag names are the punniest ones that stand out. So
yeah, I think it'll be fine. I just think maybe this is more of a mixture of like Bond girls with drag queens, which I feel like fits, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
I will give you a drag queen name. You tell me which of the movies that we have covered inspired
Got
that
it.
name. And I can provide a hint if
Okay.
needed.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
of these might be weirdly hard.
Sure.
Okay. Number 1. Delicatessa.
Delicatessa.
Mhm.
That's such a good one. That is obviously When Harry Met Sally.
Jonathan thought you weren't going to get that. He said that one's too hard.
Well, he can get fucked because that.
It's all downhill from here.
Oh, great. He thought that was the hardest one. Amazing.
Number 2, Cerulean Montgomery.
Cerulean Montgomery is a damn good drag queen name. Oh my God, Joe, you have a talent for this. That is from The Devil Wears Prada.
Nice. Our first episode.
Yes.
Number
Episode 1.
3.
Go back and listen to it, y'all.
Are you ready?
Uh-huh.
Karaoke.
Karaoke. These are dynamite, Joe. Shit. That is Lost in Translation.
Nice. Yes.
Karaoke.
Number 4, Botanica Spectre.
Botanica Spectre. Botanica Spectre. Okay. This is Little Shop of Horrors.
Nice.
Yeah.
I went the plant route, and then I went the Ronnie Spector route. Okay, number 5, Gitchy Gitchy Ya Ya.
That is Moulin Rouge, Joe.
Fantastic.
Incredible.
Number 6,
Uh-huh.
Miss Mayflower.
Miss Mayflower. Miss Mayflower. Oh my God, I'm blanking. Episode number. What episode number is this?
This was kind of back in November of last year. I don't know the episode number, so it's probably like 5 or 6.
Miss Mayflower.
I should
We
have
did a-
given you like the list of all the movies. that
We did a
covered.
Pilgrim movie?
It was our Thanksgiving episode last year, in that it was like a spiritual Thanksgiving episode. It's not
Oh,
about
that's right. It was the
Thanksgiving.
Mayflower thing. Yeah. Best in Show.
Yes.
That's right. Oh, man.
Okay, you got it. I said I would give you hints. Number 7, Miss Mayhem.
Miss Mayhem. Well. Okay, so it's not Labyrinth. It's got to be Muppet Treasure Island.
No.
Miss Mayhem?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we did Muppet Mayhem, so is it Labyrinth?
Oh, fuck. Yeah, I forgot we did Muppet Mayhem. No, it's not one of the Muppet movies.
It's not?
No.
Okay, Miss Mayhem.
It's one that's more like specifically about mayhem and things that cause it.
Was it your movie or my movie?
It was your movie.
Oh.
I think in like a
Ooh.
80s sense.
Okay. 80s mayhem. Oh my god, I can't even remember which
Water
one.
plays a role here.
Is it Waterworld? We didn't do Waterworld.
We didn't do Waterworld.
We didn't do
but God,
Waterworld.
we should.
But we've both seen it. So. Oh, we should bring someone who hasn't seen it.
It's a holiday themed episode that we did.
Oh, was it Gremlins?
Yes. Okay, number 8. Luna More.
Luna More. That is Moonstruck.
Hell yeah. Okay, number 9. Harvard Brown, PhD.
Oh, Harvard Brown. Oh, this is The Social Network. Yeah.
All right, number 10. We'll say you have a perfect score so far.
Hell yeah, I do.
This one will be a hard one. Benjamina Gunn.
Benjamina Gunn. Okay. Muppet Treasure Island.
Nice.
Amazing.
Miss Piggy, original drag character.
Big time like drag advocate for sure.
Justin, you were able to name 10 out of 10 of that drag
With a little bit, with minor help,
which I love to provide.
You have such a talent for naming drag queen names.
I was really worried going into this. I realized like finding like a fierce drag queen persona name is hard as hell.
It is. Let me see the list. What was my most favorite one?
We'll post the full list on social.
Oh, what was my favorite one? Fucking Delicatessa. It's fucking brilliant, dude.
Yeah, we were really worried about that one.
As well as karaoke. Karaoke. Oh my god. I mean, because like you said, drag queens are more known for their lip syncing. So like, it's essentially karaoke, right? But you got to put on a good show too. Hilarious, Joe. Well done.
Thank you so much.
You get a 10 out of 10.
I came up with those this morning.
I finished that video earlier this morning, so we do our best work against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
That was To Wong Foo.
That was To Wong Foo. Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar.
Exclamation point, and maybe some hearts over some eyes and stuff like that. Like, amazing movie, Joe.
As
Great
always,
pick.
Justin. We are very happy when one of us gets like a cultural bucket filled.
Yeah.
And you got to check that box this time around.
Yeah.
Do you want to before we round this out? Do you want to talk a little bit about what our July might look like?
Yeah, and
do you have the list?
And I kind of wish we would have solidified. What are we talking about in July?
I know we'll say like these are our quasi plans for July.
These are quasi plans.
June's like a really long month.
June is a long month. We have another week left. We could do something else. Mm-hmm. Ryan and I were spitballing with our social media manager, creative director role that she wears.
Freaking sucking us dry from a monetary standpoint.
I know, right? So maybe July we can do our bonus episode, fill in the gap kind of stuff. We could do that.
We've been talking about like sampling other types of media besides film, kind of taking the cinematic off of the UCU. And so we may like dip into television. We may dip into music areas.
Maybe
of
video games.
Entertainment
at large.
Who
knows?
Experienced.
But what we have down here, plotted out tentatively for July, is what we have our favorite movie theater going experience. And everyone has one of those, I think. It's either like the first time you ever got dragged to a theater, or it's your first like really memorable thing of like going to like a midnight premiere or something like that, right? The one that I had down is a cult classic. But I remember being so excited when that movie came out, and my friend and I, once we left, we could not stop talking about it for the weeks after. And our reactions throughout the whole movie were just insane. We were this was probably about the same time in 1995. I was 8 years old, going to go see this movie. The movie in particular I'm talking about is Mortal Kombat with a K. Mortal Kombat, the popularized video game from the early 90s.
That'd be a fun one to talk about. I watched the recent one that came out.
The one that hit like HBO Max or something? Yeah.
It was okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
I needed it to be a little campier. I don't know.
Then that's what this one is. This one is bonkers over the top. It is ridiculous. But it was one of my more favorite movie-going experiences that I can remember.
Yeah. So we'll solidify what the July miniseries is. We've got some time here, but we're kind of in blockbuster season. So that's kind of the direction that we're headed. We're
Yeah.
going to talk about big movies.
We've done 20 episodes, and
No big deal.
we've matured a lot. Have we matured?
I feel like I've grown years.
I'm ready to drive.
Since Devil.
Yeah, right? I can remember the conversations we had. But yeah, this was great. This was a wonderful Pride Month. Hopefully we can fill in the gap one more time before the month ends out.
Little mini-sode.
A little mini-sode. We'll do that. But yeah, had a hell of a time. This was great. We did it in person, Joe.
High five.
We'll see if this works.
I really hope the audio actually ends up being
I'm sure
legible
it's
when
fine.
we hang up on this.
I'm sure it's fine. If not, we'll just re-record and we'll do it again.
Yeah.
From the top.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. This was great. Uncultured Cinematic Universe. You know where to check us out. Like, review, and subscribe. Do all the things. And we'll catch you later.
Bye.